fired off
All right, we're live. And my sound just went out.
Oh no.
Great.
We can say whatever we want about John.
Oh, it's back now. Okay. That's weird.
He knew we were going to trash talk him.
Man, I saw Noah did this video. He took his AirPods into the shower.
What?
Yeah.
Are they supposed to be waterproof?
I'm definitely good. You know, you remember when people were doing those prank videos where they were like putting their iPhone in the water, like the new iPhone before it was. Now it is actually waterproof. I think now you could actually do that. But and everyone was breaking their iPhones.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely gonna check it out first, like Google it before I do it. But I don't think he would do that. So I'm pretty sure that they are totally waterproof. You can definitely do the shower thing.
Interesting.
My favorite prank videos were the ones where they had people drilling holes in their iPhone 7s for the headphones.
Nice.
Did you not see any of those? Oh,
I haven't. No. Someone was telling me about one though about a craft. What was it, Josh? It was like
Oh yeah, it was the artisanal firewood. Yeah, we were at Roundtable, the Perry Marshall Mastermind, and one of the guys there he does like cabinetry. So he's a woodworker and he has a cabinetry shop, custom cabinetry, and he was telling us about there's this great guy who like is totally busting on the hipster, kind of the hipster artisan vibe, and he's got these really elaborate videos where he sells artisanal firewood. So.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, people are funny.
So we just got back from the Perry Marshall Mastermind group, which was good. I think just not as valuable as like maybe the first time we went. We talked about the book launch stuff, and that there wasn't really much input on that. Most people haven't really done a super big book launch. One thing that it's been funny, Josh and I have been discovering, at least I don't want to speak for Josh, but I've definitely been discovering, is that like every time we hire like an expert to do something, we know more than them. Like it's just, I mean, it's not to like, toot my own horn or anything, but like I read a lot of books. I read a lot of, we stay up on all of the stuff as far as digital marketing, as far as selling things online, entrepreneurship. So there's really not like, it's really hard to find someone who I can't remember last time someone blew me away with their knowledge of something that I didn't know that I needed to know. Right. It's so I think there's just that there's only so much, like there's not as much depth as you know what I mean? Not that there's can't be, like, I'm sure like there's people that can run Facebook ads that that have super specialized skills in that. But I'm talking about it in general stuff, because we just been having, and that's what the reason I'm saying that is because with the mastermind, it's like we're just not going to get, like, no one is going to say something that is going to blow us away that like haven't considered that or thought of that.
Right.
We've got an abundance of ideas now, like of plans, and what we lack is the time to get them done, or possibly the prioritization. But that's the biggest problem in our business. We're not at a point where it's like, oh shit, what do we do? Our widgets aren't selling. Like,
Right.
like, how do we take our widget factory to the next level? There's nothing like that. So
yeah.
Yeah, we also lack the ability to hire people to help us execute.
So you've been hiring people and they're not getting the stuff done, or are you having trouble just finding people in the first place?
I don't know how much we want to go into this right now. But I'll let you take it away.
Well, I would say that, I mean, the big thing is the lesson learned, like what Josh and I were talking about this, but essentially we tried to, we had some money. Okay.
Mhm.
Having money is the more problems, the more money you have, the more problems you have.
Right.
Having money is a problem because you want to spend the money to accelerate growth.
Mhm.
And just like a ridiculous startup that we make fun of, we did kind of a similar.
Well, one caveat to that too is that we're in a weird situation because I'm not fully vested yet. So any money that we make, John gets to keep, and I have to pay taxes on. So that's like, yeah. So it's just we've been trying to keep our profit to basically zero. So that's a consideration.
Although I can pay myself bonuses, I just have to pay taxes on that.
Yeah,
So like,
yep.
so we can pull the money out if we need to. We don't have to like spend the money, but it's, you know, it definitely doesn't hurt to spend. And I want to invest and grow the company. So anyway, it's not like we're just like throwing out, you know, $100 bills and you know whatever. But the point is that,
you know, you have my address.
we are trying to like hire out services. We're trying to leverage time, right? I mean, I painted kind of a nasty picture, but we're trying to leverage time. And so we've hired people recently to do things for us that we wanted to hand them some cash and say, here's the cash, give me the result.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And so one of them was with the book launch. One of them was with native commerce, with the content marketing stuff. And the thing is, like, I think in both of those cases, well, I think there's two things going on. One of them is that, like, in the case of someone who doesn't know anything about selling a book online or launching a book, they probably would get what they're paid for, a decent result. In the case of someone who doesn't know anything about creating a blog and creating content and SEOing it and have any kind of content production, they'd probably get, you know, what, something like that. But we have expertise in both those areas. So by trying to like hand those off, what we sort of learned is that doesn't work. Like, you either have to be the project manager or the implementer. You cannot be the why can I never say that word? Financier, is that the word?
Financier.
Yeah, I think that's how.
Yeah, financier. I don't know, it's French. So so you can't be that. You can't be the bankroll guy. You can't just be like, here's some money, go and do my stuff. You either got to say, look, you either got to do it yourself, and then you could like and it's funny, Chuck, because this is we made the same foible that I've been preaching to you about, right? Same exact thing. I just didn't see it until I stepped in it. But essentially, you either got to be the one, you either got to implement the thing and do it and make the process. And then once you have the process, then you can hire someone to follow the steps and do it, right? So that's the implementer role. Or you have to be the project manager, where you are essentially like saying, okay, this is what needs to be done, and this is, you know, and you're running the project the entire time. Like daily, you're whoever you're hiring, like outsourcing, you're saying you're getting feedback every single day, and you're saying, no, change this, do that,
Yep.
right? This is how we need to have this done, right? You can't just hand it over to the expert, because there are no experts, and say, yeah, I trust you, get it done, because that and you know, it's kind of funny because, right, going back to software development, right? How many times in software development did that shit work, right? It never worked, right? If you think about it now, think of yourself as right? If you gave software development, right? We've been on the other side of this as software developers when some project manager came along and said, all right, go ahead and build this system. It needs to the customer. The customer interface for our database just needs to, you know, take in customers and save them in the database and calculate whatever, right? So and they give you these vague descriptions, right? And it's like, you can't just go and build that thing. You got to go. They got to give you more information, right? It's like, I need requirements. This is the kind of except the only difference here is that the experts are like, oh yeah, I got it. Right, and I mean, sometimes software developers do that too, but they don't got it.
Right.
they're gonna come back with shit, and then you're going to be disappointed, and you're going to say, "Where's my money?" And it's going to be your fault, right? And I mean, you've gone through that with the podcast editing, and we're obviously have made this mistake pretty frequently recently, and the problem is like all the shit started coming out one time, right? So every time we tried to do this, right?
I've heard the story before, I swear.
Yeah.
I think I've told this story before.
Yeah. So the big lesson is just that. It's like you either implement it or you project manage it. There's no other way around. And when you look at Simple Programmer and you look at the successful things that we've done, right? Like video, right? YouTube. All I literally do is just record videos and drop them in Dropbox, and everything else is taken care of, and it's done well. Now, why? Because when I first started doing that process, I made the process. I did it manually. I edited the videos. I came up with the process for how it works, and I did the exact flow. And then when I hired Rodrigo to do that, he followed that process. Now he's changed the process and improved upon it, but that's why that worked. Same thing with the blog, right? We've got an awesome editorial team that runs the blog, but that was more of a project management. When I first hired Elisa and her team, what I did was I went and I said, okay, this is what I want. And I worked with her very closely to tweak the results to get what I wanted. I didn't just hand her a pile of cash and say, make a blog, have a bunch of blog posts on it, right? I went back and forth a lot of times, and I was managing that project. Same thing, again, 99 Designs. We get excellent work from 99 Designs, but 99 Designs is not something that you say, here's $800, give me a logo. It's something where you where every day you go in there and you manage that project and you work on it and you say, okay, tweak this thing. Okay, this is good. This is not good. Right. And then you get a fabulous result. But if you just throw $800, you're not going to. So whatever money we're trying to recover some funds now on some of these things, but whatever money we end up losing, we didn't really lose because we spent it on education.
Yes. Yeah,
basically a year of college education.
Yeah.
So I had the hard talk with my friend Jamie, and told him that I didn't need him to edit podcasts anymore because I hired somebody. And and then I warned them exactly the same thing. It was, hey, look, I'm going to be listening to it for a little while, and so for the first handful of episodes, just to make sure that it's coming out the way that I want it to. And he was totally cool with that. So, in fact, he's going to be listening to this later because he edits this show as well.
Yeah. But yeah, so it was and it's funny too because we've got a guy that's like an SEO, or he's removing our copyright infringement stuff, and I was gonna just pay his $100 a month because he showed some result. And then now I am giving him shit. I'm looking and I'm like, is there any stuff that's still out there? And if there's any shit that's out there, I am not paying him. I am not going to sign on any kind of contract. Like, I'm going to show him how to do his job. Like, I'm going to go and search every time he comes back and say, look, I found more shit. So like, until you figure out, like, go look on YouTube, like unless he can actually do exactly the way that I want it done, I am not paying him. So.
Yep.
But so you hired your guy. How's that working out with the podcast? So I think last time we left off, we were talking about doing an Upwork job.
Yeah. So I listed it on Upwork, and Eric, who edits this show, listened to the show and said, "You're looking for an editor?" I said, "If you want to audition with the other people, go ahead." And so I gave him the same instructions and audio file as everybody else, and he was head and shoulders better than anybody else I got on Upwork.
Oh, awesome. There you go.
So I was like, cool, you got it, So, so we sat down and we figured out what it's going to take to make it work. And then I had a hard conversation with my friend Jamie, who runs the podcast editing service that I was using. And, I'm just like, I don't know how to say this, but, I can't do this anymore.
Yep.
And so anyway, he was really gracious about it.
You're supposed to say, it's not you, it's me.
I basically did. I mean, it was just like, I was like, look, some of this is, your folks just don't communicate well.
Right.
And some of this is your process is a total pain in the butt. And part of this is, I'm sure I don't communicate well either. And I've screwed some stuff up and I know it. And so, I'm like, so take that as, as constructive as it can be, because I mean, I'm telling you this because you're my friend. Otherwise I'd have just said, we're done. Bye.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I mean, the thing is, like, it's just not gonna. It's funny at the mastermind group. I'm the asshole who tells everyone to fire, to fire people. But I kind of solidified my view on this, like, because it's not just that I'm just saying like fire people. It's like this: if you're not fucking thrilled with the person you have doing a job for you, you should fire them. And it's not a personal reflection. Right. It's just like it didn't work out for some reason. Maybe it's because you can't communicate properly to them. Maybe it's because it's just not a match. Maybe it's because your process doesn't work with what they're doing, or in this case, like with this guy, they've got a process. They've got a system. His system works. You need a custom system. And if they're not going to be able to do that, then it's not like a I hate you. It's like it's just not, it's not the most efficient thing. Like, you can't modify your process to be mine and to run your business effectively. And I can't modify my process to fit into yours and run my business effectively. So it's just not a good match. Like, if we're not thrilled to be working together, then why? There's a lot of fish in the sea. Find one that you love.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I agree with you generally. One thing that I'll say, just because I know people are listening to this and I don't want them to fire somebody prematurely, that my business has a lot of stuff going on.
Right.
And so, a couple of months ago, I think I was complaining about Shandy, and I was like, hey, look, she's just not, getting things done how I want, when I want, whatever. And it just turned out that, I wasn't communicating well with her. And it also turned out that, she just needed to figure out a few more things about my business, because she's doing a terrific job now. I'm thrilled with the work she's doing. And so, I agree with you, but I think sometimes you just have to be patient as well while they kind of learn the ropes. And then also have a hard look at yourself and just be like, okay, am I being clear on this? Am I communicating well about this? Because ultimately, if it's not getting done the way you want, find somebody who can do it, even if it's kind of your fault that it's not going the way that it should. But at the same time, I mean, part of the problem was me, and I had to fix me. And then it was, okay, now that I've got my crap figured out, now we're running ahead. And so I've got Gerald out there looking for potential companies as potential sponsors. And he was looking at conferences, and then I guess he found a list of like 100 companies that have sponsored conferences over the last however long. And so he just totally commandeered that. But then nice. I couldn't get him on my LinkedIn account. So what he does is he goes and he looks up these people on his LinkedIn account and then puts a link on the story in Asana. And then Shandy's been going through and reaching out to all those people. And so at this point, I've got 4 sponsorship appointments on Monday. I think I have another one on Thursday next week. And, things are just looking better and better and better, as far as that goes. And a lot of this is just due to that LinkedIn outreach that Josh got me doing. So
sweet.
Yeah, on the firing, like you don't want to fire people prematurely, like, and it could be your fault. I'm just saying, like, if you're not going to be thrilled with the person, then then you need to get rid of it. Like, you should, every single person that's in your company that you're paying, you should be thrilled with. You shouldn't just be like, okay, they're okay. You should be thrilled, because there's no reason to not be thrilled with the person. Like, that's all I'm saying. It's like, so after time, if you haven't fixed the problem, right? It doesn't mean like, obviously there's training and there's like, but if you're never going to be thrilled with this person, right, then gone, not because they suck or anything like that, or because you don't like them. It's just because, hey, life is too short, the company is too valuable to not work with people that you're absolutely thrilled with. There's just no reason to not do that. So because you can find people you're thrilled with.
Well, one other thing that I'll point out on this same conversation though is Gerald, for example. For a while there, I was just like, I don't even know why I'm paying this guy. But he was so cheap, right? That it was like, but he gets enough done to justify $600 a month. And now he's really pulling his weight, and I'm super happy with him. But I mean, that was another thing is, I wasn't necessarily thrilled with him, but he was getting more than $600 worth of contributions into the business.
Yeah, I mean, I would say though that, I mean, that's okay, right?
Yeah.
But you could, in that situation, just keep on interviewing people until you find someone that you're thrilled with that can do.
Yeah.
I mean, because you could find someone at that point. Now I would say maybe you're thrilled with him, but you could have found someone that you would be thrilled with, and you would it would be better, right? Then you would, you should just go through and like say, hey, but yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying there. It might not be worth it, the time of investing to find a replacement if he's okay at that point, but and cheap, but yeah.
Yep. And then so anyway, those are just some thoughts on, you talking about the hiring and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, I have some other things going on, but I don't know if you were done, extolling the pains of hiring and stuff.
Audio cut out again.
He can't hear us.
Did you lose audio, John? There we go.
He can't hear us at all.
It's because I took my AirPods in the shower. That's why.
Yeah. Are you back?
I'm back. I didn't put them in the shower, but
anyway, was there anything else you wanted to talk about or go into? I mean, I definitely feel that pain. I also feel the pain of I've got a whole bunch of ideas and not enough time to execute.
Oh, yeah. What about the other side of it? Did you get the transcriptionist person or the show notes?
I have a job. I have 2 jobs listed on Upwork, and I think I kind of messed that up. So I might wind up with a transcriptionist this week and not a show notes person, because I think I copied the job but didn't change the title, and so and then I listed the wrong job. I listed the transcriptionist job instead of the other job, because I had like transcriptions in English as skills that I needed for that one, and the other one it was English, and I kind of put in there, if you have any experience with software, that's a plus for the show notes.
Right.
But yeah, so I wound up giving the people that applied to be transcriptionists the job, the trial job for show notes. But if I get somebody that will do both, I think I'm okay with that for right now. If they get overloaded, then we might transition them one way or the other. Or I may just wind up hiring one of them to do show notes and the other to do transcriptions. Because I've had people come in, more interested in doing one or the other. So,
how does that work? So the order, do you publish the podcast before the transcriptions are done, or?
I try not to. I try and release it all at once.
Okay. So actually having somebody that could do both would be nice, because they could do the transcription and then build the show notes right off of that, versus having to have 2 people listen to the episode.
Yep, that's kind of what I'm thinking. And the only trick is that I'm basically now to the point where I have, I have or will have 8 episodes going out every week that are all, between a half hour and an hour long. So
that's a lot of transcription time.
That's a lot of work. So we'll see how that
goes. People.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. So, I mean, the division of labor there makes sense to just do it as show notes and transcripts. The other thing is if I could find 2 people that do both, and then just,
Yeah, probably having just having the transcriptions done first is that usually how you do it, or do you do the show notes first and then in the past?
So in the past, the show notes got written first, but that was because Mandy would do the show notes, and she would send the. I think I'm done with playing the Bubba game, and people get pissed at me. They can just get pissed at me. But anyway,
nice.
So Mandy would do the show notes, and then she would also hand the edited video or audio off to the transcriptionist. So I think that's why, was just because the way that I had the labor divided before.
Yeah.
And then with Podcast Pilot and Podcast Motor. I don't know how Podcast Motor did it. I think they had transcriptionists that work for them, but I don't know what order they did those in. And with Podcast Pilot, who are the latest folks, they had some system that had like computer, so the computer would listen to the audio and transcribe it, and then they would just check it.
Oh.
And I don't know what system they were using. So
they just had somebody hold Siri up to the
there we go
speaker.
Yeah, I did find a transcription service like that called Trint.com, and I gave it one of my episodes and it butchered it. It was bad. I was like, I can't even work through this to correct it. Like somebody would just have to go through and just retranscribe it. So I'm sure that technology will get better, but right now
I've been waiting for that technology to get better for about 15 years, so I'm kind of skeptical.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the Amazon Echo and stuff seem to understand things semi-okay, and so I thought maybe, given enough context, it could figure it out, but that wasn't the case. So, yeah, we'll see what I get back today, and then if I have to list for show notes, I'll do that. But I kind of like the idea now that I'm talking it through with you guys of hiring somebody to do both the transcripts and the show notes, and then if I need two of those people, get two of those people.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, because that they're going to be familiar with the content, so they're going to produce really good show notes.
Yep,
because they will have transcribed it.
Yep. So
as long as they're competent writers too, and not just transcriptionists. So
but the show notes, I mean, I'm really not asking a lot. I want timestamps for kind of the major transitions in the conversation, and then with just kind of a brief description of what it is. And by brief, I mean like discussion on blah blah blah.
Okay.
And then I want bullet points for sort of the minor points within the conversation and any links to anything that we mentioned. And that's it.
It'd be interesting to look at is how many people actually use the show notes, like maybe to put Hotjar on some of your pages and see how many people are clicking. Well, I mean, you could analytics to see how many people are clicking the links. I mean, obviously you've got some, but it'd just be interesting to see what those numbers are, because that could help inform you on how much to dedicate to it.
Yeah.
What you do. But you
might be able to, since you do have the full text transcript on the page, you might be able to just go with a straight, like just any links that they include and eliminate like the summary pieces.
Yeah, that's the way that I did it before. So
okay.
Oh, I got invaded here. That's how I did it before. So when I started podcasting, it was just a list of all the links.
Yeah,
and that's how a lot of people do show notes.
But since you've got the full text transcript, like literally anything that you want to know about the episode, you could find out.
Yeah.
But it'd be worth looking at. I mean, all in all, though, like you're taking the right approach, because you've got to. I'm glad to see that this is your special sauce, right? Whatever your custom process is, like what you engineer to be the right way to produce your episodes. That's going to be this is where you've got to invest your innovation, right? Like figuring out how to do this better than anyone else that will work for you, because you're once you have this down and you're a production machine on the getting the podcast from the recording studio to out the door, then you can up your volume. Right. Yep. And so you can actually start producing more podcasts if that part becomes easy. So and at lower cost, right? And it's like a cost savings automatically across everything, right? The more you innovate here, it's like increasing your miles per gallon if you're in your vehicle, right? It's like what you innovate here has gets multiplied by your fleet of podcasts.
Yeah. Well, and the other part of this for me at least is yeah, I mean, I'm working on. I'd like to get it out this week or next week. Get the Kickstarter up for the React and Elixir shows.
Mm.
And then getting down to all the things that I want to do that I don't have time for. I got the website up for my beta for the Get a Coder Job thing, but you know, I need to re-record content and really clean it up. And so, yeah. But yeah, if I can get all that together and I can get the process just completely, you know, so I don't have to think about it on the podcasts, that's one major part that I just don't have to worry about anymore.
Yep.
Those two podcasts that you were talking to this week, are those in the same space, the React and the what were those two that you're thinking of starting?
Yeah, React and Elixir.
Mm-hmm.
Those
are not the two podcasts that you were talking to.
Oh, about acquiring?
Yeah.
Yeah, the ones that I'm talking about acquiring, I don't know if I want to say specifically on this show.
That's why I was avoiding.
No, the two that I'm actually looking at, like picking up and continuing and bringing onto the show are existing shows, and
but they're not in those areas.
No, they're not. So, I mean, React is generally related to JavaScript, which is the topic of one of the shows.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, yeah, it's not necessarily in the same space. But yeah, it could be really interesting to see where it goes. And yeah, I went out and looked.
Did Chuck freeze?
Nope. Yes.
Did I freeze?
You froze. Yeah, just for a minute.
Yeah, there's not a lot out there in that space, and I think that's part of the reason why people are asking for it.
Hmm.
But React is still hot technology, so
hot right now.
Yeah, I was kind of waiting to see if it would stick around, and it looks like it's going to be around for a while. So, so it should be interesting to see where that all winds up going. But yeah, and yeah, I've also had a bunch of people from Build reach out about sponsorships and stuff. So
nice. So that was well worth it. Sounds like.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be worth the effort and time that I spent.
Great. So how did you how did you kind of work the room? Like how did you introduce yourself? And
so I just went up, and at first I just asked them what they did. So I just, talked to them about their products. And then usually what winds up happening is they look at me and they go, "So what do you do?" And I say, "Well, I'm a podcaster." And then they're like, "Oh, well, what are your podcasts about?" And, I talk to developers, and then they start asking questions about how much traffic and things like that. And the thing that really got people interested, and I'm seriously considering adding another show to DevChat that I and maybe a few other people contribute to. But they were all very interested in doing like product demos and webinars where they can show what their product does, and then so that those would be sponsored content, but then rolling that into a podcast sponsorship. So it's, hey, you want an introduction, and I can kind of give not necessarily even a testimonial of the product, but I can give a testimonial of the webinar, right? And it's, hey, if you want to learn more, go check out the webinar we did.
Yeah.
And and then the webinar has the introduction and the walkthrough, and
that's a
does
good
the sales pitch for them and things like that. So, then we can try it and say, okay, how does it work when we send, what kind of conversions are we getting on the webinar, and what kind of conversions are we getting, just sending them directly to you.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also told them about a few of the other sponsors who have done things like they're giving out T-shirts for people who sign up and stuff like that. And those seem to get at least trial signups for those companies because people want the shirts. And so I'm like, if you want to do something like that, that works too. And so, yeah. So they're picking their brains that way. And then a few people from MicroConf. So I set up Blue Tick for a follow-up for MicroConf. And I've talked to a few people, and I've had a few of them actually get on my calendar. And one or two of them we were talking, and we weren't even talking about sponsorship. It was just, hey, let's catch up. And then, you know, by the time we're done, it's like, oh, well, I'm going to put you in touch with our content marketing guy and see about, you know, sponsoring some shows. And, you know, it really comes through. The other thing is that I've kind of changed my philosophy on sponsorships, probably over the last 6 months to a year. Before I was just trying to sell the space, and that's what I was about, selling the space. But at this point, I really want to bring in sponsors and make it pay off for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm a little bit more invested in doing whatever it takes to make sure that they at least recoup their money. I mean, ideally, I'd like to see them get a huge ROI. But, you know, if they can't even recoup their money, then I'm going to do what I can to make it work. And so I've been telling people, too, I'm like, you know, let's sit down. Let's make a strategy for this. You know, figure out how you can get in front of people in the right way so that we can make sure that this pays off for you. And so we're not just talking about spots on the podcast. You know, we'll make videos, we'll do webinars, we'll do whatever it takes to make sure it pays off. And then, you know, so you're essentially, you know, yeah, you know, initially you're probably just going to pay for the ad spots, you know, but for some of them, you know, they have visual stuff, you know, they have UI components and stuff. I'm like, that's all visual stuff, and it's much easier to show it than to tell about it. And so, you know, let's do a webinar, and I'll just factor that into the, you know, the sponsorship. So you're essentially paying for 13 episodes and a webinar, you know, so you'll pay an extra $1,000 or $2,000. You know, and that's enough for me to get invested enough to go spend some time getting to know your product a little bit better. And that way, when we do the webinar, I can get in and I can just interject where I need to, or I can do the webinar myself and we can have one of your people there to answer my questions when I get stuck. But, you know, that way, yeah, it's enough to where I'm going to go spend the time and then, you know, do the marketing to get people to go check out your product.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, and then we do the sponsorships and we say, hey, look, you know, I did this video for whoever the sponsor is. And, you know, anyway, so that got people really interested too, because I think a lot of times they talk to people who are looking for advertisers, and all they hear about is, here are the traffic numbers and here's how you buy space. And to have somebody come in and say, look, you know, I want this to pay off for you big, so we're going to do what it takes to make it pay off for you big. You know, as long as I'm getting what I need, you know, as far as getting paid, you know, we'll do it, and we'll do whatever it takes. And yeah, that was a big selling point for a lot of people too.
That's cool. Nice. That makes a lot of sense. It doesn't scale, but it will get you like the long-term sponsors. Like, yeah, I think that will make sense. And I guess it doesn't really have to scale to that. I mean, you only have so much space to fill. So
right. Yeah, there's that. And then the other thing is that, I mean, if I do one or two webinars with them a year,
yeah,
you know, that's fine. And it gets my audience used to me putting out that kind of live content.
Yeah. Yeah, but that makes sense.
The other thing that I see there is that I've been reading this book. I can't remember what it's called. I think it's called Giftology or something like that. And it talks about giving stuff away. And so anyway, it's just kind of an interesting idea of, you know, you give something not expecting something in return, and building relationships that way, which is also an interesting way to go. But yeah, I mean, instead of talking to them about what they can do for me, I'm talking to them about what I can do for them.
Yeah.
And in almost everybody I talked to at the conference, yeah, I just started at one end of the floor and worked my way to the other. And you know, it was really, really slick, really nice. Just, you know, a lot of people were really interested. And some people I talked to them, and, you know, it was just like, look, you know, your audience and my audience. You know, you were talking about the SQL tool, Red something. I think.
Yeah, Redgate.
Yeah, Redgate. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I mean, I just don't have an audience for them. Not enough people who listen to my shows, you know, but I talked to them for a few minutes and found out what they were, you know, what they were after and what they were into and who they were trying to reach. And so there was some of that, but, you know, I didn't try and skip any booths or anything, even if I didn't think they were really a good sponsorship opportunity, because it was still an opportunity to build some relationships and do some things like that.
Right.
But
Yeah.
the other thing that I figured out too, though, is that this is much more natural for me to go and talk to them and say, "Hey, look, what can I do for you?" than it is for
Right.
me to say, "Hey, are you interested in sponsoring a podcast?" If that makes any sense, it's a
Mhm.
different conversation. And for
Yep.
me, it's, you know, I feel good about helping somebody else out. You know, it's not my primary mode of building a relationship, but you know, at the same time, it's like, hey, you know, there is something I can do for you. Let me do it for you. And so by having that conversation along those lines, it just felt much more natural to me to be able to talk to them about what they need and where they're heading.
Mhm.
So yeah, there's an event in June that I'm thinking about going to. And then I just started looking around at other tech events that are kind of non-traditional programmer events, or, you know, events that are kind of outside of my normal realm of, you know, conferences that I would go to. And so there's one in New York City. It's called Developer something. I don't remember. But I talked to their organizer, and I'm pretty sure that I can get a ticket to that. I can also, the other thing is I can go to these conferences and I can do content.
Yeah.
So it
Right.
pays off in two ways. And then I got accepted for a press pass to VMworld in Las Vegas in August.
Oh, cool.
And so I'll probably go down there and talk to people about virtualization and things like that. And just see some of the stuff that's going on there and cover whatever's interesting to developers down there.
Nice.
But yeah, I was just pleasantly surprised at how easy it was to do in person too, as opposed to try and get somebody on the phone or something like that.
Cool. Sounds
Well,
like
and
you
for a
found
lot,
it.
yeah, for a lot of these companies too, they probably are sending their top marketing people there. So like,
Yeah.
you have like basically an entire room full of the right people.
Yep. Well, the other thing that's also interesting about that is that, you know, a lot of times they send their top marketing people and they're paying for the party in the evening after the conference or something like that. And so if I show up as essentially credentialed press, it's a lot easier to cut through some of that red tape and get to the person who organized the thing.
Yeah.
It should help you for sponsorships too, right? Because
Yeah.
if you are that's a pretty good credibility.
Yep. And it's funny too, because VMware is owned by Dell EMC, or at least they used to be. They used to be owned by EMC. And I'm a former employee. I used to work for EMC Corporation, so so I've used that to actually parlay my way into areas in Dell and EMC. So, but yeah, it's been an interesting week just from that standpoint, and you know, seeing where all of this is going. And then yeah, I managed to since Grace is no longer working for me doing the conferences, we changed things up again so that I'm just doing a team check-in on Monday and just kind of set the tone for the week. And I'm kind of excited about the possibilities there, because it always felt like Thursdays were just a little bit hectic because it's right in the middle of everything. And so it's, hey, this is what I need to get done this week, and then we just get her done.
So you were doing your team meeting on Thursday before, or you just had two?
Grace couldn't make it on Monday.
Oh, okay.
So, but yeah,
nice. That was another thing that John and I were talking about this week, is that we probably need to get like a little bit more, go back to practicing like kind of more official Scrum style or something like that, because our big problem is too many ideas, and we'll get sucked into stuff that it's all good stuff, but it's not stuff we planned on. And so we get a lot done, but it tends to encroach on the stuff we really meant to get done.
Yeah, what I'm finding is helping me with that some is there's a book out there called The 12-Week Year. I think I've talked about it on here.
Yeah,
before,
yep.
I've just been working on planning out 3 months. And, just in broad strokes, I haven't gone into as much detail lately as it tells you to in that book. But even just saying, look, May is sponsorships, right? And then June is figure out the conferences stuff. And then July, I haven't quite figured out exactly what I want to do there. But, I just kind of move through it. Like, what's the most important thing? And right now it's filling sponsorship spots and getting paid, so that I can keep doing what I'm doing. And then, June is going to be focused on, getting the processes together for the conferences and just nailing that down. And I've got most of it, so it shouldn't be too much of a stretch. So maybe I only do that for 2 weeks and then I have some other focus for 2 weeks. But now that I'm where I'm at, I'm trying to figure out, okay, so what's the focus for July? And so July might be speaking, right? So it's, okay, what are all the Ruby and JavaScript and Angular conferences out there? And, what can I talk about on those? Or things like that, so that I can get out there and get the word out and, sell my course and sell sponsorships and, just be more present with people. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
But then I don't feel bad either kicking stuff. Okay, this is after the 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I lose focus, it's like, this is the thing. No, does this have to do with the thing? No. Does it have to be done right now because, podcasts won't go out or something? No. Okay, then. Yeah. Do I need to put it into June? No. Right. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. I was gonna say the trouble we've had with it is that it's sticking to so we sort of planned this quarter to be the book launch, but then we're talking about how we went off and did some other stuff, and then that stuff is fine except for when the shit hits the fan, and then you're in trouble because it all comes piling down at once, and then you're buried. And you're in the muck and you're not making progress. You're being slowed down. So, but we were talking about, I think it'd be a good idea, to have you have that quarterly goal and then everything you do focuses towards that. And that could span multiple areas of discipline, right? It could be, as long as you have that, what else could I do I was comparing it to overlearning with the Pomodoro technique. Like when you're done, you keep on working on the thing, even though you're done if you finish early, which no one ever really does. But, but with but that makes sense for a quarterly goal. Is it's okay, well, with the book launch, you could do it in 2 weeks worth of work, or you could do it in 3 months. You could literally every single day, or you could do it in 5 years worth of work, right? There's always more work you could do on it.
Yeah. One other thing, I'm going to move my camera here, is that I went through some of this a while back, and I don't know if you can see the whiteboard.
I can see the whiteboard. I can't really read it.
But anyway, so there are. Is there something? I don't know what that is there. Anyway.
Oh, that's me.
Hey,
that's the monitor. Okay. So anyway, I have lists, right? So I have the podcast list, the sponsors list, the conferences list, the beta course list, and then if I pull it all the way out here, I don't know if you can see. I can still see Josh, but I have my action items over in the corner for the week.
Yeah.
And so I just update those every week, and so. Yeah, if I start working on something else and I look over there and I'm like, oh, that's not on my list, right? So my action items for the week, basically are boiled down version, what I'm going to do this week to get toward that monthly or quarterly goal. And just by having it up on the wall in front of me really helps. So this week's action items are up as fill up next week's sponsor call spots, which I've kind of done for Monday. I haven't quite done for Thursday. But Shandy and Gerald kind of took that over. I was complaining about doing it, and they were like, "Oh, well, let us do it." And so so Gerald is finding the companies, and then finding people to reach out to, and then Shandy has been reaching out to them on LinkedIn, and then she can just drop them into the blue tick sequence when they add me.
Nice.
And then hire a new editor, which I did. Hire 5 trial show notes people, which I did sort of. Clean up my desk because I can turn this the other way. My office is clean now except for the desk. So
just sweep it all off onto the floor.
Yeah, there we go. Well, I didn't
Now that then you
specify,
have to
did I?
update your list to say clean up floor, but you're good.
Yep, and then fill up the podcast schedule with guests. So, I mean, that's what I'm working on today because, cleaning up my desk and doing the podcast schedule are the only things left on my actions list.
That's cool.
But yeah, so then I look up and it's like, oh, I'm fiddling with the beta again, but I haven't finished the things on my action items. So then I kind of reprioritize. And sometimes I change up my weekly action items if something hits the fan. But
Right. Yeah.
I think what we need is like a shock collar. What we need is a Trello plugin with a shock collar,
Yeah.
Zapier.
extension to it. So, oh yeah, really redefines the word Zapier.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Well,
think
one thing too, like I just discovered in general. Oh, does my sound go out again? It's weird.
We hear you.
we can hear you. Yeah.
There we go. All right. One thing I discovered in general is that if you, well, okay, so you take on these little things, and you don't think about the cost of the long-term consequences of those things, and and the cumulative effect of those. So they pile up over time, right? So that's one thing that always like it. So I end up with a whole bunch of overhead, right? Because I've scheduled things on a weekly basis, or I've made these small commitments, but all those small commitments add up, and then pretty soon it's like, wow, I'm in email for 2 hours, but why? And some of it's because, well, it's all these little things that are I have got going on, and there's like, it's just like one email a week from each one of these things, but that adds up when you have a whole bunch of things going on. So the more of the things that you have going on, you got to check the stats on this, you got to look at this thing, deal with this little thing there, and then pretty soon you're spending a lot of time on little stuff, and you wonder where your time is gone. So I've been trying to be very disciplined now about like saying, okay, I have to cut down, and I cannot add, even if it's small commitment stuff. Like I was talking to Manny, who runs the 2000 Books site and YouTube channel, and we were going to do a weekly book review, and that sounds great, and I'm all up for doing that. And it's only maybe half an hour once a week, and it would create some good content. But if I do that, I was about to commit to that and put it on the calendar, and then I was like, nope, I can't do this, because if I do this, then that's one more half hour that like is like fixed into my schedule, that like I have to actually reduce things down, so that I've got time, and you've got to have that certain amount of like flexible time also, I think, to deal with this unexpected stuff. Because I got hammered. I'm still buried. I'm still working my way out from, I went for the weekend to up to LA, and then right afterwards we went for 3 days to this mastermind retreat. And I was basically, at the mastermind, like during lunch breaks and stuff, I was trying to like handle fires and catch up on stuff. And I'm still like, I was like, wow, 5 days of should not bury me so badly. So I got to figure out what is wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one other thing that I've been doing too, is just, what can I cut? What can I say no to?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Well, I'm going to check out Hotjar and just see where people wind up at.
Yeah, because if you could just simplify that process a little bit.
Yep.
To me, the show notes are most valuable if you're not doing full text transcripts.
Yeah, the show notes, though, also go into the RSS feed.
Oh, that's true.
I've had a lot of people actually tell me that, because the show note format changed when I switched editing companies, and they complained a little bit because not all the links were in there and stuff. And so, yeah.
Wah.
Because they like just opening up, oh, I'm listening to the show, well, show me the show notes, and then they just tap on the links or whatever. But yeah.
Should we go to our thoughts?
Sure.
Unless someone's got something else.
Let's do it.
Well, I'll kind of I'm going to piggyback on something I said a few weeks ago in my thought. And I was basically I think I said something to the effect of the way you do anything is the way you do everything. And so I've just been trying to level up like all of the areas of my life. It's like, okay, am I performing with excellence at work and at home? And it's funny because I became very much aware of some of the things that I've committed to and then not done very well. And at the same time, it was like, you know what? I mean, if I make it a priority, it really won't take that much time. And so I've realized that in a lot of these cases, it really just comes down to, for whatever reason, I tell myself I don't have time, and then it turns out that I do. Or I can prioritize things and not spend that much more time, but get it done and get it done right. And so I guess my thought is that I don't have time is really a function of priority and not a function of how busy you are.
I guess I can piggyback off of that a bit, which is that I was kind of doing analysis of what, of when I get into trouble situations, and
it's when you talk about Trump.
Yes. You've got to really, so like we when we did this travel, I was, like I said, I was buried, and the issue is, like, I always go to somewhere and I think that I'm going to, like, I think I'm going to find some time to do some stuff while I'm there. And that's just like a bad idea. Like, from now on, I'm going to try and be ahead, like, essentially count days where I'm going to travel or be at a conference or something as completely dead time. And if I have, and just make it a minimal, or figure that I have 1 hour a day to do something other than, than the conference or the event, and then plan ahead of time. Because it's funny, like you always assume, we have this fallacy of thinking, of not really having a good idea of what the future is. Of having a more optimistic view of time, especially when it relates to the future. So my solution for that is that from now on, if I'm going to go somewhere or do something, I'm going to make the day before, maybe the prior 2 days, all about, like, cut any new work and make those 2 days about getting forward or ahead, or planning for the time that I'll be gone, so that can make sure that I'm not buried. Because it's a nasty effect, because one, you're distracted from what you're doing if you're going to an event or something, and two, when you get back, you get slammed, like you feel like you're buried. At least that's how I feel about it. So it's been a recurring problem for me, and now I'm finally getting a hold of it and saying, okay, look, I got to stop doing this. I got to make sure that I'm way ahead before I go, so that or have the plan, so that I don't end up suffering from this. So just something I've been realizing now.
Yep.
I don't have much other than to say that chicken and waffles is really, really good.
That's not keto friendly.
It is not at all. we had our dinner on one evening. I ordered the chicken and waffles, and it was like deep fried breaded chicken sandwiched between 2 halves of waffles with, like, a half a cup of caramelized maple syrup poured over it. That was pretty good. So I'm starting keto again on Sunday, so I will be thinking about that for a month, I'm sure.
Yeah, I am working at it right now, and I'm still about where I was last time we talked, so I got to figure something out.
All right.
Alrighty.
Oh, one quick. We should do this earlier in the show, but we did get another application. We still have applications open, so as soon as we get 4 people, we've got 2 right now, so there's 2 slots left for a new mastermind group. So it's entrepreneurprograms.com/apply. if you want to apply to be part of the mastermind group. Like I said, once we get 4, then we'll spawn off a new group. And yeah, there you go.
Awesome.
And just so people know, we take care of everything for you. Basically, like you just show up and record your episode on Google Hangouts and share your dirty laundry with the world. And then the editing and everything else gets taken care of for you. So,
yep.
There you go. All right. We'll see you next week.
All right. See ya.
Bye.